Hello? My name is Daniel Brooks. If you're listening to this, I need you to do something for me. Tomorrow morning, when you get to work, don't just walk straight to your desk like you always do. Stop. Look around. Count the desks. Don't assume you already know how many there are. Actually count them, because that's where this started. And if you ever find a desk that nobody else remembers, leave. Don't argue. Don't ask HR. Don't try to prove you're right. Just leave. I wish someone had told me that 6 days ago. I worked at Blackridge Financial in downtown Seattle for almost 6 years. It wasn't a bad place to work. It just wasn't the kind of place anyone ever dreamed about. Gray cubicles, buzzing fluorescent lights, cheap coffee that somehow tasted burnt every single day, and the same conversations over and over again. Morning. Morning. Busy? You know it. After a while, those conversations stop sounding like words. They become part of the building, like the hum of the air conditioning. I liked that. Routine makes you feel safe. Every morning I'd park on level 4, grab a large black coffee from the lobby cafe, and take the elevator to the 12th floor. By 8:15, I'd already be answering emails. By noon, I'd be wondering why I hadn't quit. By 5, I'd tell myself tomorrow would be different. It never was. And honestly, I didn't mind. There were 27 desks on our floor. I know that sounds like a strange detail to remember, but when you've walked the same office every weekday for 6 years, your brain starts memorizing things without asking permission. Mine was desk 26. Right beside me was desk 27. Nathan sat there. We weren't close. We never hung out after work. We never had each other's phone numbers. He was just the guy beside me. The kind of coworker you slowly get to know because life keeps putting you in the same place every day. We complained about meetings, talked about football, made fun of the coffee. Sometimes we'd work for an hour without saying a single word. And somehow, that felt normal. Looking back now, I remember almost everything about him. The brown jacket he wore whenever Seattle got cold. The light blue shirt that somehow never wrinkled. The way he'd tap his fingers while waiting for spreadsheets to load. The cheap mint gum he chewed after lunch. His laugh. His voice. I remember all of that. But every time I try to picture his face, there's nothing there. It's just blank. Like somebody reached into my memory and carefully cut only that part away. I didn't realize it then. Back then, Nathan was just another coworker. Nothing more. Nothing less. Everything changed on a Monday. It had been raining since before sunrise. The windows were covered with tiny streams of water, and people walked into the office shaking umbrellas and complaining about traffic. It felt like every other Monday. I stepped off the elevator with my coffee in one hand and my laptop bag over my shoulder. I wasn't thinking about anything important, just whether I'd finish a report before lunch. Then, I stopped walking. Not because I saw something, because something felt wrong. You know that feeling when you walk into your own house and immediately know someone moved a chair? You can't explain how you know. You just do. That's exactly what this felt like. Everything looked normal. Melissa from HR was laughing near the printer. Steve was already arguing with IT because he'd forgotten another password. The copier was making that awful grinding noise it always made. Nothing looked different. Except something was missing. I looked toward my desk. Then I saw it. The space beside me was empty. Not someone called in sick empty. Not they're replacing the computer empty. I mean, there wasn't a desk anymore. No chair. No monitor. No keyboard. No cables. Nothing. The carpet stretched smoothly from my cubicle to the hallway as though nothing had ever been there. I actually laughed. I figured facilities had started renovating over the weekend. That was the only explanation that made sense. Then Melissa walked past carrying a stack of employee folders. "Morning, Daniel." "Morning." I pointed toward the empty space. "What happened?" She looked where I was pointing. "What do you mean?" "The desk." She frowned. "What desk?" I smiled. "The one next to mine." She looked back at me, then at the hallway, then back at me again. "Daniel, that's the hallway." I laughed. "Very funny." She didn't laugh back. Instead, she asked, "Are you feeling okay?" She didn't laugh. She just stood there looking at me with the kind of expression you'd use on someone who'd said something deeply worrying. "Daniel, I think you need some coffee." I looked back at the empty space. No, Nathan sits there. "Who's Nathan?" For a second, I honestly thought she was messing with me. Office people do that sometimes. They commit to a joke just long enough to make you question yourself. So I played along. "Okay, you got me. When's he coming back?" Her smile slowly faded. "I don't know anyone named Nathan." There wasn't even the slightest hesitation. She meant it. That was the first moment. I felt something twist in my stomach. Not fear. Confusion. Real confusion. I sat down, opened my laptop, answered 2 emails, read the same sentence 5 times without understanding a word. Every few minutes, I'd look toward the empty space. My brain refused to accept what my eyes were seeing, because I knew Nathan had been there on Friday. I remembered borrowing his phone charger. I remembered him complaining about traffic on Interstate 5. I even remembered him telling me his daughter had finally watched Jurassic Park. Those weren't vague memories. They were ordinary ones, the kind your brain never bothers making up. Around 9, I walked straight into Steve's office. He was reading a report when I knocked. "You got a minute?" He looked up. "Sure." I closed the door behind me. "What happened to Nathan?" "Nathan?" "The guy who sits beside me." Steve slowly took off his glasses. His expression wasn't confused. It was careful, like he was trying to figure out whether I was joking. "I'm not following." "Desk 27. He didn't answer. Instead, he turned his monitor toward me. "This is the current floor plan." Every workstation had a number. 24, 25, 26. Then, the hallway. No 27. No missing workstation. Nothing. I frowned. "This is the new layout." Steve shook his head. "No. When did they change it?" "They didn't." I looked at him. "What do you mean?" "This has always been the layout." That word bothered me. Always. Everyone kept saying it. Always. Like reality itself had already decided the answer. I walked back onto the floor. By lunchtime, I'd asked 7 different people. Melissa, Steve, 2 people from accounting, 3 from IT. Every conversation ended exactly the same way. "Who's Nathan?" "You've always sat beside the hallway. There isn't a desk 27. By 4 o'clock, I wasn't trying to convince them anymore. I was trying to convince myself. Maybe I had mixed Nathan up with someone from another company. Maybe stress had done something to my memory. It sounded ridiculous, but somehow, it still sounded more believable than an entire office forgetting the same person. That night, I searched everything. The employee directory. Nothing. Payroll records. Nothing. Old team emails. Nothing. Every message Nathan had ever sent me. Gone. Even the folder I'd created for our conversations had disappeared. I checked LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Nothing. No Nathan. No family. No old photographs. No graduation picture. Nothing. It was like searching for someone who had never existed. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the ceiling. The apartment was completely silent. The refrigerator hummed quietly in the kitchen. Rain tapped against the windows. For the first time all day, I actually wondered if I was losing my mind. Then, my laptop chimed. One new email. I almost ignored it, until I saw the sender. desk27@blackridgefinancial.com. My hand froze on the mouse. I clicked it. The subject line read, "You forgot me first." Inside, there was only one sentence. Is greater than tomorrow. Don't let them remove the red folder. No greeting. No signature. No explanation. Just that one sentence. I read it again. Then again, trying to figure out whether someone in IT was pulling an incredibly elaborate prank. I clicked reply. Before I could type a single letter, the email disappeared. Not deleted. Not archived. Gone. Like it had never existed. I searched my inbox. Nothing. Deleted folder. Nothing. Spam. Nothing. I searched the exact subject line. No results. The only proof I'd ever seen that email was my own memory. So I grabbed the nearest sticky note and wrote the sentence down before I could forget it. Tomorrow. Don't let them remove the red folder. I had no idea why, but something told me I was going to need it. I finally shut my laptop a little after midnight. I should have gone to bed hours earlier, but every time I stood up, I found myself sitting back down. That email kept replaying in my head, not because it was threatening, because it wasn't. It sounded like someone trying to warn me, someone who knew something I didn't. I brushed my teeth, locked the front door, checked it twice for no reason, then crawled into bed. Sleep never really came. Every time I started drifting off, I saw the same sentence. Don't let them remove the red folder. Around 1:30 in the morning, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. I reached over without opening my eyes. Probably another work reminder. Instead, it was my calendar app. A brand new event had appeared. No title, no color, no location, just an empty reminder. I frowned and tapped it. The screen stayed blank for a second. Then, letters began appearing. One at a time, like someone was typing on my phone from somewhere else. I watched the sentence slowly finish itself. Is greater than whatever happens tomorrow. Don't sit in my chair. I stared at the screen. My first thought wasn't that it was supernatural. It was that my phone had been hacked. That made more sense. I deleted the reminder, closed the calendar app, opened it again. It was back. Same time, same sentence. I deleted it again, locked my phone, set it face down on the nightstand. 5 seconds later, the screen lit up by itself. The reminder had returned, exactly the way it was before. No sound, no vibration, just waiting for me. I held the power button until the phone shut off completely. The screen went black. For a long time, I just sat there in the dark, listening to the rain, listening to my own breathing, trying to convince myself there had to be a logical explanation. There always is, right? The next morning, I got to work almost 40 minutes early. I wanted to prove all of this was in my head. The office was nearly empty. The cleaning crew was finishing up. Fresh coffee drifted through the hallway. Everything felt normal again. For a second, I actually smiled. Maybe yesterday had been stress. Maybe I'd finally get some sleep tonight and laugh about this tomorrow. Then I looked toward my desk. The empty space was still there, exactly the way I'd left it. I stood there for almost a minute, just staring. At exactly 8:46, Melissa walked out of the records room carrying a thick, bright red folder. My heart skipped. The email. Without thinking, I hurried toward her. "Melissa." She turned. "Morning. What's in the red folder?" She looked down. "Old employee files." "Can I see it?" She laughed. "Not unless you suddenly started working in HR." Before I could say another word, Steve called from across the office. "Melissa, conference room." She turned too quickly. The folder slipped out of her hands. It hit the carpet. Papers scattered in every direction. People immediately walked over to help. I dropped to one knee and grabbed the closest photograph. It showed our office. 8 years earlier. Same gray carpet. Same fluorescent lights. Same cubicles. I found my desk almost instantly. Desk 26. Then I looked beside it. Desk 27. It was there. The chair. The computer. The keyboard. Everything. Someone was sitting there. My pulse started racing. Nathan. It had to be. Same brown jacket. Same posture. Same desk. Except his face had been violently scratched out. Not faded. Not damaged with age. Someone had taken something sharp and deliberately destroyed only his face. I grabbed another photo. Office Christmas party. Nathan. Face scratched out. Another. Company picnic. Same thing. Another. Holiday luncheon. Again. Every photograph. Every year. Every event. The same man. The same desk. The same missing face. My hands started shaking. A hand suddenly reached down and gently took the photographs away from me. It was Melissa. For the first time since I'd known her, she wasn't smiling. She quietly gathered the remaining papers, then leaned close enough that only I could hear her. In a voice barely louder than a whisper, she said, "You can still see him." I stared at her. "What did you just say?" Her eyes widened. "What?" "You just said, you can still see him." For a split second, I was certain I'd heard her. Then, just as quickly as it had disappeared before, her usual smile returned. The same friendly HR smile she wore every day. "I think you've been working too hard, Daniel." She picked up the last photograph, slipped it back into the folder, and walked away as if nothing had happened. I stood there in the middle of the office, surrounded by coworkers who had already gone back to work. Nobody looked concerned. Nobody seemed interested in the photographs. Nobody even asked why I'd frozen. That bothered me more than anything. It felt like the entire office had silently agreed not to notice what I'd just seen. The rest of the afternoon felt wrong. Conversations stopped whenever I walked past. People smiled less. Nobody looked at me for more than a second. Around 4 o'clock, I noticed something I should have seen much earlier. Every single person on my floor avoided the empty space beside my desk. Not obviously. Not on purpose. They simply walked around it, even when walking straight through would have been faster. One guy carrying a stack of boxes took 3 extra steps just to avoid crossing that spot. He never looked down. He never hesitated. His body simply knew not to step there, like years of habit had survived, even after the memory had disappeared. I had to know if I was imagining it, so I waited until nobody was paying attention. Then I walked over and placed my black notebook directly in the middle of the empty space, right where desk 27 should have been. Then I went back to my desk and waited. 5 minutes passed, then 10. The first person walked by. Without even looking down, he changed direction slightly and walked around the notebook. The second person did exactly the same thing. Then the third. Then Melissa. Then Steve. Nobody stepped over it. Nobody kicked it. Nobody even noticed they were avoiding it. It was as if something invisible was still standing there, and their bodies remembered, even if their minds didn't. A chill ran through me. Because habits don't survive without a reason. Something had trained every person in that office to avoid that exact spot. My computer chimed. I nearly jumped. Another email. Same sender. desk27@blackridgefinancial.com. The subject line simply read, "They noticed." Inside, there were only 2 sentences. Is greater than, before they erase today. Watch camera 12. Attached beneath it was a 6-digit security access code. Nothing else. No explanation. No signature. I copied the code onto the same sticky note where I'd written about the red folder. The moment my pen left the paper, the email disappeared. Exactly like the first one. I leaned back in my chair. Whoever was sending these messages knew things before they happened. They knew about the red folder. They knew about the photographs. Now, they wanted me to look at camera 12. I looked toward the security office on the lower floor. For the rest of the day, I couldn't think about anything else. I stayed in the parking garage nearly 2 hours after everyone left. I kept telling myself to go home. Forget Nathan. Forget the emails. Forget the photographs. Pretend none of this had happened. But every time I reached for my car door, I looked down at the sticky note in my hand. Camera 12. Finally, I turned around, walked back into the building, and headed for the security office. The security office sat in the basement. I'd only been there once before. Small room, no windows, just rows of monitors showing every hallway, stairwell, elevator, and office floor in the building. The night security guard looked up as I walked in. He was in his 50s, quiet, the kind of guy nobody ever really noticed. "You forget something?" he asked. "My laptop charger." He nodded toward the hallway. "Happens." He went back to scrolling through his phone. I waited until he looked away. Then I stepped over to the security terminal. My hands were already sweating. I typed the 6-digit access code from the email. Access granted. I stopped breathing. The code actually worked. Whoever had sent those emails had access to the company's security system. I searched through the camera list until I found it. Camera 12. It overlooked our department. I selected the archive from that morning. 8:59 a.m. The footage loaded. There I was, walking into the office with a coffee in my hand. I watched myself sit down. Then, my stomach dropped, because I didn't sit beside an empty space. I pulled out a chair that no longer existed. I turned to my right, smiled, and started talking to someone sitting beside me. The chair beside mine moved. Not much, just enough to sink backward, the way a chair does when someone leans against it. Coffee lifted off the desk. Pages turned. Pens moved. Everything behaved exactly as if someone was sitting there. But there was nobody. The camera showed an empty chair, moving by itself. I replayed the footage. The exact same thing happened. Then, at 9 hours, 3 minutes, and 17 seconds, every monitor flickered. Less than a second. When the picture came back, desk 27 was gone. The chair disappeared. The monitor disappeared. Even the power cables running across the floor were gone. The empty space looked exactly the way it looked today, as though nothing had ever existed there. Except, I was still talking for 12 more seconds, smiling, laughing, answering questions. To empty air. I felt sick. I replayed it again. Same result. Again. Same result. One more time. Nothing changed. Then, a voice behind me quietly said, "You weren't supposed to see that." I nearly jumped out of the chair. The security guard was standing directly behind me. His phone was gone. His relaxed smile was gone. He looked exhausted, like he'd lived through this before. "You saw the change," he whispered. "What was that?" He looked at the screen for several seconds, then pressed one key. The recording erased itself. "No." I reached for the keyboard. He grabbed my wrist. Not violently, just firmly enough to stop me. "You have to stop looking." "What happened at 9:03? He didn't answer. Instead, he asked me something that made no sense. "Do you remember your first day here?" "Of course." "No." He slowly shook his head. "I mean your actual first day." I opened my mouth. Nothing came out, because suddenly, I couldn't remember. I remembered the interview. I remembered signing my contract. I remembered my second week, even my first paycheck. But my first day was gone. Completely gone. The guard quietly let go of my wrist. It always starts there. What starts there? The forgetting. Before I could ask another question, every light in the room went out. Darkness. Complete darkness. Not even the exit sign was glowing. I heard breathing. It wasn't mine. Someone else was standing in the room, very close. Then, the emergency lights flickered on. The room was bathed in a dull red glow. The security guard was gone. His chair was still spinning. A paper cup of coffee sat on the desk, still warm, but he had vanished. Every CCTV monitor was black, except one. It showed the security room. Live. I was standing exactly where I was now, looking at the monitor. Then, someone slowly stepped into the frame behind me. Nathan. Brown jacket, light blue shirt, standing so close he could have whispered into my ear. He smiled. I spun around. Nobody. The room was empty. I looked back at the monitor. He was gone. Then I heard footsteps. Slow, steady, never rushing. I ran through the hallway, past empty cubicles, past conference rooms. The footsteps never got faster. They didn't have to, no matter how fast I ran. They kept getting closer. I reached my floor. The office lights were on. People were working, laughing, talking. Everything looked completely normal. Then I saw it. Desk 27 was back, exactly where it had always been. Nathan sat there typing like he'd never left. He looked up, smiled, and quietly said, "You're late." Melissa walked past him. She smiled. "Morning, Nathan." Steve stopped beside the desk, asked him about a report. Nobody thought anything was strange. I tried to speak. Nobody answered. I grabbed Melissa's arm. She didn't even react. She walked straight through me, like I wasn't there. Then I looked toward my own desk. Desk 26 was gone. Only clean gray carpet remained. No chair, no monitor, no cables, nothing. Exactly the way desk 27 had looked 6 days earlier. That's when I finally understood. Nathan hadn't disappeared. He'd been forgotten. And now, someone else had taken his place. If you're hearing my voice, it means I still have a little time left. So listen carefully. Tomorrow morning, when you get to work, count the desks. Because if you find one that nobody else remembers, don't ask why. Don't look for old photographs. Don't answer emails from desks that don't exist. And whatever you do, don't sit in the empty chair, because once it remembers your name, everyone else forgets it.